welcome. Thank you everyone for being here for our first IP3M public series for an exchange on quality in IP management. So if we move on to I'm really pleased to be here today as the president of I3PM to present the first of a series of webinars where we will interview IP professionals on state-of-the-art IP topics. And through these webinars, we hope to spread the good IP practices, initiate peer-to-peer discussions, and to improve the overall quality of IP management within our community. So obviously, all this is possible not because I'm alone, I'm with a team. And if we move on to the next slide, so you can see that our board team comprises of myself, there's Bastian Best, Nikki and Martin, and also our dear Professor Udze, who is supporting us along the way. So let's have a quick look at the agenda for today. So I would like to spend the next couple of minutes explaining to you the latest news and what to expect from IP3M moving forward. And then after that, as you know, the theme of today's webinar is quality in IP management. So we will have Nora Ruther, who will be presenting to us her master thesis in MIPLM on very practical tips on how concretely we could implement quality in IP management within our companies or for our clients, for example. And then we'll move on to the first part of Q&A, where you could ask questions on Nora's presentation. Then followed by Hans, who will be giving us an overview of the I3PM content portal. So that is the learning portal where you could access 24/7 in order to learn more about IP management topics. And last but not least, we will have Melina, who will be telling us about the social media support services, followed by a second Q&A on the presentation by Hans and Melina. So moving forward, I would just would like to request that if you have any questions along the way, you don't have to keep it to all the way to the end. So you could already ask it by typing it in the chat. Or if you prefer to ask it in person, then you could raise your hand and wait for the moderator to call your name in order to ask the question live. And of course, last but not least, please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. So I'm hearing paper flipping sound. So I don't know who it is, but please be mindful of that in order for everyone to have a very pleasant webinar today. So next slide, please, Nikki. Okay, so I think one of the first thing that I'm really excited to share with you today is the I3PM quarterly. So the IP3M quarterly is a signature event. So as the name suggests, we plan to run it every 3 months. And the IP3M quarterly will consist of 2 parts. The first part, which is the part that you are present today, is a lecture on a chosen topic. And then the second part will be members only. The second part will be members only, and it will be more very more peer-to-peer chat style, so that everyone could do a topic deep dive with the topic experts. I3PM quarterly that you could expect would be in June, which would also coincide with our annual general meeting, but we will talk about that maybe in the next month's meeting. So to the next slide, please. And the other news that we are also very excited about in I3PM is that we're in the process of building what we call the I3PM committees. So basically, each committee will comprise of a group of experts who are relevant in the topic. And the aim is really to bring together other experts to join the committee so that like-minded experts could exchange ideas and so on and so forth. So here you see a sample of some of the committees that are beginning to sprout out. But obviously, if you look at go to our website, you will see a larger base of different committee topics that you could consult, and everyone is welcome. All members is welcome to, if you would like to join one or several committees, please feel free to contact the committee's chairs so that you would be part of that committee in order to contribute towards that committee. And then the next thing that I would like to talk about is the events in April. So in April, we will be hosting 2 events. The first one will be the part 2 of this session. So it will be members only. And we will bring aside Nora for a close chat. So if you have any questions at all on quality in IP management, or you have any very specific questions, maybe more linked to your company situation that you would like to talk about during this to ask Nora about, then it would be something that it would be possible during this second session, the part 2 of quality in IP management. So this session is open for members only. So if you are not yet a member, it's not too late to join. Our membership is still open. So you just need to go to our website, i3pm.org. And then I think I'm at my last slide, which is the second event that we have in April upcoming. So as you know, in April, we have the World IP Day where we celebrate women in IP. So here we are also making a public event so that everyone could be involved in the celebration. So this event is organized by the Women in IP community. And in order to host the event that addresses questions that are relevant to our members, I would like to make a call to action. So you can see over here, there's a barcode you see on the screen. So if you scan it, it will bring you to a questionnaire, which we would like to call out to every woman in IP to fill in, so that we could get a sense of, what are the topics that you would like to be discussed on this day, on this World IP Day, during the event that we'll be organizing. And of course, Men in IP, you can also play your part by sharing this QR code with other women in IP that you know. And for this event, is a public event. So even if they are non-I3PM members, it's all right. So we are happy to take everyone's feedback in this particular survey. The deadline for this survey is the 11th of April. So please help us organize the next event for women in IP by participating in our survey. So with that, I will bring you back to the agenda in the next slide. So where I will give the floor to Nora, where she will talk about implementation of quality in IP management. But first of all, let me just introduce Nora. So Nora is a patent engineer with a dual degree in business engineering. She also has an MBA in business law. And in 2022, she completed her MIPLM at SAP together with under the supervision of Professor Alex Witzer. And today, Nora would be presenting her thesis that she did at MIPLM on the quality of IP management. So I hope that I personally found her thesis very insightful, because what I realized is that, when we talk about DIN 77006, it sounds very scary. We don't even know where to start. And what Nora's thesis would actually show us is that probably most of us, we are somewhere already along the way. We just need to figure out where we could improve our practices. So with that, I would let Nora do her presentation. It's going to be a video recording, but Nora will be here to answer the questions.
Thank you, Jamie, for the invitation. Today, I want to present you the DIN 77006 and the topic of my master's thesis of the MIPLM studies at SAP. It's about the readiness level of implementation, the actual status of the different companies, and the recommendation for actions. On the first step, I want to give you a short invite. What are the types of IP? Just for a better understanding, you have got patents and utility models as technical solutions. You have got the design and the trademarks, and also the trade secret. As you can see here are 3 examples. On the right side, you can see an application of a fuel filter for the car. You can see on the left side, it's a Mercedes E-Class, and it's protected by a design. And in the middle, you can see the Mercedes star as a trademark. There are different trade secrets for the entertainment of the car. To go on with a better understanding of the DIN and its processes, you have to also understand there are different types of learning. You've got the learning from experience, learning by doing, that every child is every day doing to learn how the world is functioning. You've got the mediated learning, the teacher in front of you who taught you what you have to do. You also got the learning through incorporation, imparted knowledge. This is a moment a company invites an expert or get new employees to work for them, to bring new knowledge into the company or into a group. The fourth type of learning is the generation of new knowledge. Therefore, you have to put different experts in a room, let them think about a problem and find new solutions by connecting their knowledge in another way, for example. Based on this, there's a question, why does it make sense to implement a standard? There is a quality management standard. It's a part of the ISO 9000 and ISO 9001, which is auditable and certifiable. The DIN 77006, it's called quality management and IP management. The quality management there is based on the ISO 9000, 9001, but it's specially adapted to the topic of IP. The DIN gives you an overview of all relevant processes and steps you need to implement a very good IP management in your company. Therefore, it's at the moment auditable, and we start thinking about to make it certifiable. But how to implement a standard? Therefore, you can use the PDCA circle, plan, do, check, act. Therefore, also, you need a plan. What is the way I want to go to implement? Then, if you have got a plan, you have to bring it to your company, start the implementation, check what you have done, do the different parts, the different processes in your daily life, check them again. They are going along with your plan or not. If not, try to improve it, and then act again, and maybe you have to plan again because of changes in your company. The DIN 77006, as I mentioned, is a quality management and IP management, and it's, as you can see on the left side, has got an own order based on 9 different main topics: strategy, generation, administration, risk management, enforcement, defense, transaction, reporting, and awareness. But after talking to different companies, for the implementation part, it's easier to change the order, because most of the companies has got a really big problem with strategy, or especially with risk management. So there's got a recommend order for the companies on the right side of this presentation part. So for the companies, it's easier to start thinking about the administration, then the reporting and strategy. Generation and awareness go along together. Then, if you have got this basis, you can think about risk management, and later on, there will be the part of transaction, defense, and enforcement. Here's an example took from the DIN 77006. It's a topic of IP enforcement. In the standard, there's a goal that is described. In this example, it's a systematically identifying potential infringements of one's own legal positions by third parties and dealing appropriately with identified infringements by taking appropriate countermeasures. These goals should be achieved by using 4 sub-processes the identification of relevant products, the market observation by employees, the checking for possible infringements, and the consideration and implementation of measures. These steps should be implemented to get this goal. And these questions, how good these different sub-processes are implemented in the companies. Therefore, I ask 7 different companies and check how the implementation is done there. On the left chart, you can see the implementation of the respective sections of the DIN in the companies. So it is interesting that the topics of IP enforcement and IP defense are very well implemented in the companies. For them, it's most of the time easy to work with this topic because it's not a standard itself. For this topics, most of the companies use external lawyers, so they are not the only one who should take care about this topic. But the main problem next to the strategy for the company, you can see in the white circle of the left chart, is the topic of reporting and awareness, because you have got an IP department that is has got lots of experts, is very good in what it's doing, but there's no real connection to the C-level, to the purchase, to the sales department. So the awareness of IP in the rest of the company is low. And this is a result of this survey. On the right chart, you can see the overall implementation level in comparison. The letters A to G are short forms of the companies I have asked. The companies D and E are very well presented, and they've got a very high level of implementation of the DIN standard. Reasons, therefore, are on the one hand a very great team with lots of employees in the IP department, and on the other hand, especially in company E, they've got a training in IP management, so they realize what is necessary to get a good IP management. The companies in the red right circle are not so good on the level of implementation. For the one with just 45%, it's just, yeah, why do we need a DIN? They don't understand it. And this is a typical effect of an IP department that lives in its own world without connection to the rest of the company. And for company G, it was because their portfolio of products and patents changed so much, they have to start again to check their risk management and their administration, their strategy. So they lost some points on this part, but they are on a very good way to get on a high level back again. The companies which have received a recommendation for action are all in northern Germany. 4 of them are more in the south part of Lower Saxony, and the other ones in the north of North Rhine-Westphalia. There are no problems of being competitors, because they are all from different product lines. We have got plastics, we have got agriculture machinery, we have got bulk binding machinery, paper production, so there's no problem, but they have all the same place rules, the same problems to be connected in the rest of the world. The interviews with the company follows most of the time this procedure. When I come to the companies, I ask the question, what do you know about the DIN? And have you already implemented in your company? And the other guy answers, I know the DIN, yes, but not read or even implemented so far. Then I do my survey ask them everything about the DIN, the sub-processes, and check what they've implemented. Sometimes they don't know that they have done it. Then in the end, I told them the actual status. Here, for example, it's 71% of readiness level of the implementation, and gives them some recommendation for action for the improvement of their implementation level. Then they look at me, okay, yes, then we should implement your recommendations to achieve a 100% level. And this was for me a fact to go on and to help the I3PM to improve the readiness level of implementation of the DIN standard for good quality management of IP management. Here's an example from one of the interviews. It's the example of company A with a 71% of implementation. Here you can see the typical effect that IP strategy reporting and awareness is a problem, and the enforcement and defense points are 100% fulfilled. The company gets 1 point for every fulfilled sub-process, and some parts have more points because of more sub-processes, so that you can see in the DIN standards. And here's an example for the next steps, the recommendation for action for the company A. They should, in the first step, try to improve the IP strategy as a priority to establishment an own individual IP strategy in line with the corporate strategy. The advantages for them are the IP portfolio is adaptable to the business goals, and future goals can be better covered, and they can check their costs and the future costs. For the implementation, maybe it's necessary to write a first draft of an IP strategy from the IP department side, but also maybe there will be a good company strategy, then you can use this and go along with your IP strategy in the same way. But if you have to do it by your own in company A, this is a fact, you have to start from the IP side, then you should ask in the C-level the question, what is the most important product line for you, for the company, for the competition, for the sales, and what are future relevant products and areas? Do we need the variety of machines in the long term? What kind of machines do we want to earn our money with? Is adaptation of machines to times of crisis necessary? Or should we build new divisions? These questions are necessary to find a good IP strategy in the best way in comparison and connection with your product and company strategy. For company A, it's also necessary to improve the IP generation. At the moment, it's more an reactive IP department, and it should become active, maybe with the help of a tech scouting team. Look outside what will be interesting for the future and try to find the way to go there too. And they should optimize the systematic identification of potential intellectual property rights. For company A, it's also necessary to improve their IP reporting. It would be nice if they could do it according to the IP strategy, because then it's easier to analyze the target deviations, and they are also able to control the connection to the business model. For company A, as I mentioned before, it's also necessary to have a very good IP awareness. It's the fact in every of the 7 companies, the IP department is very well trained in the topic of IP and law sometimes, but the different departments like the engineering, the marketing, the sales, the service, the other ones, they are not so trained. They have sometimes no knowledge about IP, and they need their stakeholder-specific IP knowledge. So the IP department should try to create a training concept for these areas so that everyone knows that facts of IP he needs to know. And maybe to check it if this knowledge is still there, company A should implement also exchange meetings between IP and marketing, IP and sales. So we'll see how company A will be in the future, how many points they will get. As a conclusion of my presentation, you can say on the left hand, you have got the business and company culture. On the right hand, you have the company with your quality management and IP management based on the DIN standard. But you have to bring it together to connect your IP strategy, your IP management with the corporate strategy, and then you have got the chance to be successful. So thank you for your attention, and do you have questions?
Thank you very much, Nora. So we are ready to take some questions related to the presentation made by Nora. Nora, are you here? Could you please turn on your camera so that
Yes.
we could? Cool. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so I'm just going to answer the questions in the chat bot. Well, ask the questions in the chat right away. And then for those of you who have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. So if you hover your mouse on the bottom of the screen, you will see a button called reactions with a smiley. So over here, you can raise your hand. Okay, so David Carlo asked a question. It was at the beginning of the presentation, so he asked copyrights also. So can the dean also deal with the copyrights questions, or is another is different from patents and trademarks, for example?
The main point of the dean is dealing with the typical parts of IP, so especially it's more for the topic of patents, utility models, trademarks, and trade secrets.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so copyright is something that is maybe less considered at the moment.
It maybe you also find some points of copyright more in the ISO standard 56, not 65005 in the innovation management.
Okay. And the second question from David is tech scouting, your meaning in this context. So I think he's referring to the part on the recommendations for company A, that they could improve their IP generation by tech scouting, for example. So what do you mean by tech scouting?
Tech scouting, technical scouting. Sometimes you've got the problem with patents. You just look back at 80 months before, and there are some trends in the future, like, for example, hydrogen engines or solar power to drive vehicles that are future examples. And tech scouting, instead of IP, looks to the future. And if you want to have a good mixture in your IP portfolio, you just have to look in both ways. So tech scouting can help you to analyze trends for the future and to find ways maybe for your company which is necessary. For example, I work, as mentioned, in an agriculture company. For us, it's important to find an engine solution that is without fuels as today, but electric power isn't strong enough. So we try to search for the future in the topic of hydrogen, for example.
Mm-hmm. And if I also may add an example, like for example, today we know that we talk a lot about the metaverse and generative AI. So one of the questions that could be asked by a tech scout might be, how would, if one day, if 10 years from now, if you know, metaverse becomes a reality, and how would it impact the industry that we are working in, and what are some of the opportunities that we could try to anticipate as a result of this impact that has been identified. So these are some of the different ways in which we can do IP generation. Moving on to the next question by Radza. The question is, what was the level of implementation of the Dean influenced by the size of the companies, and were the companies part of the study of were the companies who took part in the studies of comparable size?
To answer this question, today I talk to more companies than the 7 ones. The 7 ones has got comparable size. They have all around about 2,000 employees, and but I realized today that also big players have got the same problems like very small companies. But the possibility to implement something is easier in the smaller ones, but there's often manpower missing. So you need a good mixture that it's easy to implement something like a standard, but I didn't realize in real influence by the size of the company. It's easier if you have got a bigger team to implement, but this is not necessary that the team is just in the IP department. And yes, to the second question, they were on a comparable size.
Okay. The next question is from Jarit. So how did you arrive from the points for each topic from the Dean?
To explain this to you, I use the draft form of the Dean standard. There you have got a list, or I start the other way around, you have got a goal, for example, of the IP enforcement, and then there's a main process and some sub-processes. And in the draft version, they are listed in a form of bullet points. And I take this bullet points as checklist. So for the IP enforcement, for example, there were 1 main process and 4 sub-processes. So the company get points if they fulfill one of these process steps. That's the way I get I count the points.
Okay, and a question from Mona, but I think many of you might be asking the same question, which is how can we assess the recording? So the answer is yes. So the entire session will be recorded and made available on our website. Okay, David, next question. How to avoid the matrix problem where folks chase the test, but not the real value? For example, teachers who teach to the test, but not to get kids educated. So is it also, do you think it could be a problem for Dean standards?
I would say sometimes companies are a little bit of skeptic, but when they realize and have just one look into the standard, they see that most of the points and processes that are mentioned in the Dean, they fulfill, they are in their daily doing. And maybe this is a difference to most of the school projects that the teacher just taught you to learn something and you never need it again in your life. But the Dean standard, for example, told you that it's useful to have an overview about your IP portfolio. And this is something, yes, you need to manage it. So the point is that we try to, or we have to improve the, how to say, the understanding of the relevance of the Dean. And then they will realize all that this is something that is not so complicated as a mechanical standard, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Dean actually, from what you have shown, it provides a KPI that is very tangible that you can follow year after year to see whether you have improved in your score or where to identify precise hotspots in which the company could work on to focus on in order to improve their score. So yeah, so I think the follow-up question, well, it's not really a question, but it's a comment of David, is that how do you prove or demonstrate that the Dean is better than, say, it's a good investment. So yeah, I think it's really the traceability that is very valuable for a lot of companies. Okay. Do we have any hands raised? Or if you have any question, please go ahead and ask your question. Our audiences seems to be pretty shy today.
I see that there's a further question of how it's named, David. He asked how to prove or demonstrate that the implementation of the Dean standard is useful as an investment. And to answer this question, David, I would say there's not an investment exactly necessary in the first step. The first step is just to take time, have a look at the Dean and check what, if you have got a patents and, or better say, if you have got IP, and how to deal with it, to get a better understanding of IP in general. And don't forget, IP is something of your value of your company. So I don't need an investment in the first step. The only investment, for example, is the Dean itself. And it's also, for me, I use it at Grimme as something like a guideline to build up my IP department. So in this point, you can use it just like a checklist. And if you realize, okay, the point in the administration part where I should deal with trademarks, we haven't got trademarks, or trademarks are the topic of the law department, it's okay. You don't need every point done by yourself. So the point why you need a better IP management, you also can realize by the fact that the influence from the external environment asks it, because there will be conflicts with third parties and you can avoid them by having the high quality IP management, because you see a risk very early.
Mm-hmm. We do have one last question in the chat. How do you use the weight that you use for the evaluation? Is it each item get equal weight, or you have more weightage for specific items? Yep, I don't know whether is it a long answer or a short answer, because we have time only for a short answer.
It's a short answer. In this case of my master thesis, I give every step just the same points. There's no weight in it for the evaluation.
Okay. Okay, so in the interest of time, I propose that we move on to the next part, which is a presentation by Hans. So Hans is an IP economist and innovative strategic manager in the healthcare industry with international experience. So Hans will be talking to us about the content portal, which is a online content where you get lectures linked to IP management topics, which you can access 24/7 from the comfort of your home if you want to continue learning about the latest in IP. So Hans, to you.
Thank you. Welcome to all. Thank you for the opportunity to talk here. Yeah, what is the mission of I3PM? Next slide. The mission is to ensure quality in IP management. And what we are doing is we have a holistic view of the topic. A holistic view, so no focus on certain things as patents, licensing, industries, and so on. And it's a holistic view. And this also shows the abundance and the heterogeneity of the committees. The committees are working on different topics, and what they are doing, it will be reported in to the content portal. There are two standards which show the quality, and this is in IP management, and this is the DIN 77006 and the ISO 56005. This is one of the reasons why I3PM focuses on standard compliant IP management and the implementation of these standards. The main difference between the two standards is that the DIN 77006 is based on the standards for management quality, and it is a kind of a concretization of the principles set out in the ISO for IP management. So it's a concretization. DIN 77006 contains different processes. This does not mean that each of these processes must be implemented in every company, but companies should consider and decide what has to be implemented and what not. If they have decided to implement a process, DIN 7706 requires that the necessary knowledge for the execution of the process has to be available, actually available. And the basic generation of IP awareness, especially for non-IP experts, is even listed as a separate process of DIN. In this respect, DIN explicitly requires the dissemination of the relevant knowledge in the company. ISO 56005 sees IP management as part of the innovation process. In this respect, the standard represents the link between innovation management and IP management. In this standard, different processes are described for the execution of which a high degree of competence is necessary. These competences or the necessary knowledge must be produced with the participants, in particular the non-IP experts, and therefore we have this knowledge on this content portal. Since the necessary knowledge has to be made accessible to a very large number of people, and because working conditions in companies are changing, home office and new work, it is not so easy to get a training and to have access to such knowledge, and therefore companies need to have a content portal. And here the content is stored. So those I3PM members who have chosen the option will have access to I3PM, and there is also in this content portal, they can see an excerpt on the basically available content. So it's not the whole, it's only an excerpt, and which is related to the topic of the respective quarterly. In addition, they can follow the work of the committees in this content portal and get access to the results of their work. The content portal can, of course, also be used and operated by companies and law firms, but this is not part of the I3PM add-on. But in the above sense, it makes a lot of sense to operate such a portal. This means that the content portal is then individually adapted to the needs of the company and the individual users. It is possible and makes sense to provide each user only with the content he needs and better to perform better in his tasks. And another point is tools and processes are available to determine the information, training needs, and individual company functioning on IP. And there is the possibility to customize content to the company or to inject the company's own content. It's also an important point. The content portal was originally developed to work with the institutions or organizations that organize their training through the portal. However, it is possible and makes absolute sense in terms of the standards to also use the portal for raising awareness and training IP experts. For the implementation and realization of a standard compliant IP management, it is essential to know that the different roles and tasks in the organization and departments, processes, and so on, and their relation to IP. In addition, it must be defined which of these roles in the organization must have which IP knowledge in order to know and avoid IP-related risks and in their tasks, and if necessary, also to realize possible opportunities for the company through IP. Yeah, tools are available to make these connections, and the connections themselves can be mapped on the content portal. If you want to know how the content portal can be used for the practical implementation of standards in the company, please follow the blog regarding from Business Academy, and there you can learn a lot. We have also now on the other hand Jörg Plettig, who will talk about responsible for the third block. He's a patent attorney and supports clients in standard compliant IP management. So next, yeah.
Thank you very much, Hans. So moving on, I would like to introduce Melina. So Melina is an experienced marketing manager with a demonstrated history of working in the marketing and advertising industry. And sorry, she is a specialist of helping IP professionals build their online presence on social media. So I will give the floor to Melina to present what she would be doing for I3PM members, for those who has signed up for the add-on for social media content. Melina?
Thank you. And thanks also for the invitation and to be able to speak to you today. So I3PM in general has a digital mindset with a LinkedIn first policy. Facts about LinkedIn will follow later. So IPBA Social Gateway, which is the social media marketing agency of I3PM, is a tool for this and is supporting you with this. So some facts about LinkedIn. I hope all of you also already has a LinkedIn account and is active on LinkedIn. If not, maybe you will be after this presentation. So LinkedIn has over 850 million members and is active in more than 200 countries at the moment. It's the most important social network in the legal sector, and it's there to build professional and business contacts. With the SAPI IP Business Academy, we've been conducting a study on the digitalization of client relationship within the new work conditions and the using of social media of IP experts since July 2022. If you also wanted to participate in the study, you can contact Alex and he will send you the study and also the results we have until today. So here's a short introduction to IPBA Social Gateway, which is the social media agency of I3PM, as I already mentioned. And it provides advice, coaching, and resources to support the social media work of I3PM, the committee chairs, and the members. Next. Perfect. Thank you. The committee work is supported by Social Gateway, and it explains what an ideal post on LinkedIn looks like and determines the editorial plan for the next few weeks. When we have all the posts together and the editorial plan, we will post the posts on the I3PM's LinkedIn page. So the task for the committee chairs is to like, comment, and share the post. And that should be done with a timely manner. So the LinkedIn algorithm rewards accounts with higher visibility and a high interaction rate in the first minutes after it has been published. So it's not only a benefit for the account itself, like I3PM's account or IPBA's account, it's also a benefit from you and for your comment or your interaction with the post, because it also gets more visibility of the comment as more people see the post itself. So here's the example of the IP Business Academy LinkedIn feed. I hope every one of you is already following IP Business Academy on LinkedIn. And if you want to see what we are planning to post on this LinkedIn feed and when we are posting it, at which time, we will be happy to include you in the distribution list of the editorial plan. So once in a week, we plan the post for the week, and we will also determine when we post the post, on which day and at which time. So here's an example of the work of IPBA Social Gateway. That was a post from the IPA. It was an online seminar, and their expectation was to get 150 to 200 participants for the seminar. So Social Gateway helped EPO to get more reach and to get interaction with the post and participants. And in the end, there were 450 participants with this event. And the post itself had more than 10,000 impressions for speakers and more than 500 plus follower growth for HTPC. So you can also see this post. It is 5 months ago, so you have to scroll a bit, but you can see it on the IP Business Academy feed. Here's some best practice examples. You may know Martin Wilming and Bastian Best already. So there are our 2 best practice examples for Switzerland and Germany, and also the 2 companies Galbayan and Onsagas. You can have a look at their LinkedIn. It's very, very good. We will show you how a LinkedIn feed has to look like, or a profile has to look like in the next pages. Yes, so I took the example of Alexander Wurzer because I work with him and I know his profile very good. So that's an example how your profile should look like and the activities that should contribute to your own business and profile. So it's not the point that you have to put in a lot of information. You have to put in the information that helps you to get the proof of your knowledge. And if you've booked the €25 support with I3PM, we will support you with setting up your profile and maximizing the effect of your profile. So of course you need a profile picture and also the other picture in the background. Then there you see this little microphone behind the name. There you can do a voice record of how your name is pronounced. That's very good if you're active internationally, so people know how to pronounce your name. Then a short description of what you're doing, where you're active, topics you're talking about. And yes, the best one is to have 24,000 followers, but that's not easy to get it from one day to another. It was a lot of work from Alex. And yeah, on the right side, you see that you have to put in some information, what you're passionate about, what you're working with, and also what your experience was in your life, where you worked. And yeah, you should put in the information that contributes to your business and not just a lot of information, so just a valuable one. Exactly. That's like another experience examples, but you can also have a look at his LinkedIn and compare to your LinkedIn and maybe add some more information. There's also the section where you can put in what you know, for example, IP strategy, and other people can verify that you're good at this. And you should also ask other people to verify this, because if you just put in the information, other people that don't know you don't know if you really have this knowledge or not. So you should ask people to verify this. For example, IP strategy is verified 84 times. Here's the best practice for a personal brand. So with your profile, with your online appearance, you get a personal brand. You have to publish content. You can also share content of other pages in the beginning, because that's the easier way and you don't have to use a lot of your time. But in the end, it would be necessary to post your own content. Then on the left corner, you see the performance of the content. So the best thing would be if your community on LinkedIn interacts with your content, comments it, shares it, likes it. In the beginning, it's not easy to get there. You can also ask people to do this, but after some time and when you have a lot of reach, it will be done by itself. And in the end, the most important thing is that the people you want to address also see your content. You can see this, for example, in the demographics. And that's how you know if you reach your target group. Like, people can also see the content, but the people will have no value if you post topics that are not interesting for them. So Alex made it to the point where the topic is shown for people who are really interested in these topics. In the end, the result and the best practice of a personal brand is social selling. You can all look up your social selling index on LinkedIn. It's like a number that is generated by LinkedIn of different components of your score. You can see it on the right. There are like 4 components. Your professional brand, that you find the right people and you're connected with the right people, that you engage, and that you build relationships. And LinkedIn will tell you your social selling index. 77 is already very good, but yeah, our goal is to get up to 100. So if you're good at social selling, you can have a proof of your expert knowledge. You are known as an expert in your community. You also have a big community, and people will come up to you and ask for help, and you will have a business on social media. So to sum up the most important things, your social media presence plays an important role in how you're perceived as an expert. Colleagues, clients, and potential clients are represented on LinkedIn as well. And a poor LinkedIn presence reduces respectability, and publishing content is also an important point. So most importantly, interaction. So you have to interact with other profiles, and people will interact with your profiles or your content as well. And that's where we want to support you with IPBA Social Gateway. If you book the social media option or the membership, I look forward to expanding your LinkedIn presence together with you and help you to set up your profile and manage your content. that's it from my side.
Thank you so much, Melina, for the very, very interesting talk. So I forgot to add one slide in between, which is the Q&A slide. Do we have any questions for Hans or Melina? So I'm looking through the chat right now, and Jacinthe has a question for Hans. What is the login credentials for the members portal for people who has booked the add-on? Your microphone is off, Hans.
We have quarterly, and the contents are changing every quarter. And if you have the full program, you have access to all things, to all videos and the whole information.
But how do they log in to the content portal?
You become member, and then you get. We will show you how to log in and to use this portal then.
So do they contact you directly, or
Yes,
how? Okay.
everyone who is interested is invited, and we will do a presentation of what is in the portal and how to use this.
Mm-hmm. And Melina, for you, is it the same that anyone who wants to, well, anyone who booked it, who paid for the services, they can contact you directly
Yes,
in
exactly.
order.
With
Okay.
email or on LinkedIn. And if you don't know how to book the membership, we also have a short explanation how to do it.
Yeah, and I think we haven't talked about it before, but we need to work out a system on how to check who booked and who didn't
Yes,
book,
exactly.
so that you don't get overworked. Okay, so we have a question from Mave, which is there a way to upgrade the membership from basic to premium after becoming a basic member? So I think that one is mainly for this, more for the I3PM board than for Hans or Melina. I think we discussed this, and we said that we could send you an invoice. So send us an email. So you see our email here on the slide here. So tell us which one, there are 2 different levels. So tell us which one you want to upgrade to, and then we'll send you an invoice with the difference.
Exactly, Jamie. That would be my proposed way forward. This is simply manual work. We have no automated process for that, so that will need to be done manually.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And so calling out to all the non-members who are present. So I think today you have a very good overview of what is behind each membership level. So if you are not yet a member, do consider joining us, and obviously becoming a member, whether you are a classic member, a premium member, whatever the add-on. As long as you're a member, then you will be eligible to attend the second session of the I3PM quarterly on quality in IP management, where we could go deep dive with Nora on questions linked to IP management. And to become a member, just go onto our website, i3pm.org. So are there any other questions? No? Okay, so I think if there's no other questions, we can end the session here. So call to action, a couple of things. Consider becoming a member. Share the QR code from the Women in IP committee, so that we can organize a great event on World IP Day. And the third call to action would be to reach out to Melina or Hans if you want to access the portal and you have already paid for it. Yeah, I think that's it. And with that, thank you very much for your presence today. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to email us. We are available to discuss. And And we hope that we'll get better and better from here. Thank you very much, everyone.